Hi, and thank you for participating. This video will provide a brief overview of the features of MakeHuman so that you can design your own character. MakeHuman is an open source software for 3D humanoid character modeling. It also allows for quick, automatic generation of multiple characters that can then be manually adjusted. While the program allows for entire bodies to be modeled, for the sake of time, we will just be focusing on designing the face of the characters. As a quick preview, I can start with this default character and then quickly generate multiple other characters based on this base character. Select one that I like, manually tweak it, and then continually generate additional ones to select and alter. For example, I just automatically created 5 variations on this character. And in this tutorial, we'll be showing you how to do this and how to manually adjust these characters' faces as well, such as this. To start out, let's talk about how to navigate the program. When you first open MakeHuman, it will look like this. You can use the left click and hold to rotate, or hold the right click wherever you want to zoom in, and then move your mouse, and it will zoom into the area you initially clicked in. Additionally, at the top, you have a few buttons that can orient the camera as well. Now, let's start explaining the attributes you can alter to change the design of your character. You can change these manually, but this will also help you understand what attributes you can alter when you start automatically generating the characters. Right now, let's just focus on the Modeling tab, which you can see up in the top left. And from here, we're just going to be focusing on the Main subtab as well as the Face subtab. And in Main, which you start out in, you have a few macro options that you can alter. This includes gender for adjusting the masculinity and femininity of your character, age, and a few other aspects that you can look at, including different race sliders that will adjust between the 3 options that you see here. The other that you want to pay attention to is going to be the Face tab. So from here, you can see there's many different attributes that you can select from to have fine-tuned control over the structure of your character's face. And you can see if you look over here on the right that there's many different categories that you can select from. Before we were on nose size, we can go to mouth size, for example. And there's many different options here. So feel free to select and look around a little bit and experiment with how these different parameters change the design of your character. While most of your decisions as the designer will be made using the Modeling tab in the Main and Face subtabs, you also have some options to choose in the Geometries tab if you want. For example, you can choose some hair for your character with some pre-built options, as well as eyebrows or eyelashes. While these are optional, they are also there and available for your character if you so choose. In addition to modeling and geometries, you can also go to the Materials tab, where you can then choose from a number of different skin colors and textures. Again, this is optional, but if you'd like to have a little bit more of a realistic looking skin texture, you can also choose among these pre-built options. So let's review. In order to design your character, you'll have control using the Modeling tab with the Main subtab, which you can control here, as well as the Face subtab, which gives you access to any of these categories, as well as any that you can scroll to and manually adjust. You also have access to geometries, where you can add some hair or eyebrows or eyelashes. You can look at some of the others, but those will apply more to the full body and less to the face, so they're not quite as relevant in our application. As well as the materials, where you can add some different skin textures as well. While MakeHuman does have other features for designing, especially because we're limiting this just to designing a face, we won't cover those in this tutorial. Okay, so with that review, you now know all the tabs and locations for manually designing the face for your character. But let's learn how to have MakeHuman automatically generate multiples of these characters for you so that you can manually go in and tweak and iterate as you create your character. So we want to go over here to the Community tab. So click there, and then over here you'll see this tab called Mass Produce. Click there. So it's from here that we're going to be able to generate multiples of our character. And this probably looks pretty complicated, but I'm just going to focus first on the center part, and most of it we're actually not going to have to worry about. What we're going to spend more time looking at later are these macro and modeling settings here. But just to start, let's start here at the top in the middle. Right here it has options for randomizing either the hair, the eyelashes, eyebrows. If you remember back in the Geometries tab up here, we can actually just click there, how you had options to choose among different hairstyles like this. If you're in the Mass Produce tab, this is just saying whether you want it to randomly select one of those attributes that are there. Likewise, we have the option to randomize some skins. If you remember, under the Materials tab over here, we could choose from a few different skin types over here. This is just asking if you want it to randomly select one of these as it's generating a character for you. As for these tables down here, don't even worry about it. This is just saying which ones of these assets can apply when you have different settings applied from the modeling. So that's already all taken care of for you. So if you want it to randomize, you can keep it checked or X'd out like this. If you don't want it, you can just uncheck it like this. For the sake of this demonstration, we'll just keep it checked for now. Now let's turn our attention to the left side of the screen, where you can see we have macro settings and modeling settings. So let's talk about macro first. So you can see you have control whether or not you want to randomize the age, weight, height, muscle, gender, and ethnicity. So if you remember on the modeling tab, over on the main sub-tab, for example with the age, you had control over how old or young you wanted them to appear. So if you come back over here, you can click when you're generating random multiple characters. You can choose whether you want the age to be something that it's changing and varying. If you want it to be varied, you'd keep it selected like that, or if you don't, you'd unselect it like that. As well, if you want it to randomize it, you can choose a minimum or a maximum, and this also applies to these other characteristics that it shows here. As for gender and ethnicity, it's a little bit different. If you do want to randomize the gender, you have the option to have absolute gender checked or unchecked. If it's checked, it'll choose to either create a character that's fully male on the slider or fully female, where if you unselect it, it can create characters that are either fully or one way or the other, or somewhere in between. The same is with ethnicity. If you choose to randomize that attribute, you can have a character that is fully in one of the three ethnicity options, or you can uncheck it and have it be a mixture among the three. So that's just a choice up to you. And what that would look like, for example, with gender, if you had absolute gender, it would be a character looking more like fully male like we have it here, or fully female if you were to choose absolute. Or if you were to choose something in between, you could get values that are more in between like this. Now let's look at the modeling settings down here. This is where you're going to be spending most of your time. So if you remember on the modeling tab, we had the face sub-tab where you could change parameters here, but there's also a lot of these different categories over on the right. such as nose, mouth, the ears, neck. So if you come back over to the Mass Produce tab, you'll see that it has those options for altering the face, such as cheek, chin, and it has some others for the rest of the body. I'm just going to go ahead and unselect those, and you can too, just for the other body parts that we're not focusing on because they aren't part of the face. So that would also include like the legs, hips, measure, pelvis, stomach, torso. So really just what we're wanting to focus on will be the cheek, chin, ears, eyebrows, eyes, forehead, head, mouth, neck, and nose. And from here we have a slider that is saying how much we want to randomize in the sense of how much we want it to be different from the character that we currently have. So if you're starting from the default, everything will be pretty much just in the middle anyway. And if you want it to deviate greatly, you'll slide it more this way. If you want it to deviate just a little bit, you'll want to put it more this way. So let's just keep it about a third or so from the way up there. And then we'll begin to generate our characters. With our randomization settings the way that we want them, we're going to go over here to the right side of the screen, and this is where we're going to actually generate our characters. So first, this is just choosing the file name, the prefix in the models that we're going to create. So I think by default it usually says base, but you could change this to whatever you want it to be. I'm just going to do first, just as a way to keep track of our iterations. Keep file format just the same as it is. And here you can choose the number of characters that you actually want to generate. So you could choose 50, 100, 2, 10. We're just going to keep it at 5, just so it can quickly generate these. And we are just going to push produce. And you should see a progress bar generating at the bottom, showing you how far along it is. And once it finishes, it'll give you this little done notification. So that means it successfully worked. From here, we're going to move from the Community tab towards the Files tab, over all the way on the left. And you'll see over here that it generated 5 models for us because we specified 5, and it's using first because we use that as the file name. So when we click these, it's going to open up these new models that it's created. If you don't want to lose track of the character that you've made so far, feel free to go into Save, and you can create some name for it. I can just call it Original. Then we can just click Save over there. And then that will then be loaded there if we ever want to go back to it. But let's open up the models that it's generated here. And you can see it's made a few very different looking models. These characters can vary pretty widely. And from here, if any of these fit the type of character that you're wanting to design a little bit better than the others, you can take it and use it as a jumping off point for creating more characters. So let's do an example of that. So let's say you've generated these 5 characters and you think that this 5th one most closely gets to what you're trying to work on. So you could go back and just generate a bunch of different ones. But if this one gets a little bit closer to what you're wanting to do, you could actually just go into modeling and make some changes as much as you want manually, like this. Maybe you want to shift his eyebrows a little bit. See how that alters facial structure. Or what you can also do is if you come in here and before where you had a few different of these selected, let's say that you like the general look of it, but you just want to get a better idea of what it might look like if you changed his eyes around. So you could go in here and make sure that you unselect everything if they're already selected. Make sure that they're unchecked. Here as well, if you don't want to change any of these. But let's say we just want to change the eyes, and we want to see what a few deviations from what currently exists would look like. So we can come in here, and if it said first before We could change it to second just to keep track of our different iterations that we have going on. And we could create a whole bunch just to show that we can change the number here. I'll put 10. Let's do produce. So then it's going to go through creating these 10 models once again with different randomized eye parameters. So let's click OK with when it says it's done. Going over to files. If you want, because we did change some stuff here, you could click save where there's a shortcut up here, or you could go back into the save tab, whichever you prefer. So I'll just click this. And then you can see we use second as our new prefix, and it's created quite a few for us. So let's check some of these out. So that's pretty close to what we already had before. So a few different shapes here. So you can see with the randomization setting, and especially with the deviation not being turned up as far as it could go, we're getting some good variation between these, but it's reasonably subtle here. That one's a little bit bigger, so you can get an idea that if you want to just view a few different variations, you can just laser in on one of these attributes here and then choose how much you'd like to randomize it to get a better idea of what your character might look like. You can go through as many iterations as you want. You can pick one. You can start to manually tweak it as you will. But this should give you a good idea of how you can use MakeHuman in generating multiple characters automatically and then slowly dialing in on a few things. Or if you decide you don't like this at all, you can just jump back in and say you want to randomize everything once again and maybe try a few different assets, randomize the face completely, change this much higher or maybe just a little lower. It's up to you. Okay, as a conclusion to the tutorial, let's just run through a very quick example of how you might be generating these characters and iterating through this process. So if you want, if we're just starting with this character, you can actually just come up here and click this reset if you ever want to just start from scratch. So I'll just do that to give an example of it. So let's say we started this like we had just opened it up. I'm not going to even touch any of the settings under main or face. I'm just going to come over to community to mass produce, and I'm going to let it just generate these initial characters for me. Just to keep it simple, I'll just keep all of these checked so that it can generate this character. How about I up the deviation a little bit, and let's just call this new. Again, you can call it whatever you want. Let's start producing it. Let it run through that. Click OK, jump back over to files, and we had called this new, so we can, and I don't care about the currently open file with unsaved changes, so I'm just going to click yes. Let's see what that looks like. So we have new here. Let's look at this other one. So let's say we wanted to go with this. So again, we could come into modeling and make some manual changes to the face if we wanted to. Or let's just say we wanted to have the tool make a few different options for us and then choose among those options that it automatically creates. So just say like new part 2, just to differentiate it from what it's already done. And let's say I like the age. I just want to see a few variations in the facial structure. So let's just keep things how it is. Not let it randomize any of the skin textures or anything like that. Let's just localize it to just some of the facial structures. So unselect any we don't need. Let's say nose, mouth. We'll keep head shape, eyebrows, ears, chin. Sure, we can keep cheek in there as well. And this is pretty high as well. So let's just keep it there. We'll keep it at 5. Click produce. Let it do its thing. Okay. So let's go and look for new part 2 over here in files. Make sure we have load selected. And let's see what this looks like. Okay. So you can see it's maintaining those features that we told it not to randomize. And then it's creating a few different facial structures from those that we've told it to randomize. So from here we can select, we can go in and manually tweak it as we want. We could run another iteration, whatever we'd like to do until we can get to that character that we think best fits what we're trying to create. So hopefully that gives you a good idea on how you can quickly be generating these characters.